So I'm Erin Sullivan. I'm out of Local 3, IBEW, New York City. And we started a program about 10 years ago. And we, as the apprentices coming into the industry, we pair each new apprentice with a mentor. So while we don't, keep it separate, with the males and the females, like every apprentice gets the opportunity for success. But as I go on more, I'll talk more about how I feel that it benefits the women more so than the guys, so to speak. Are we going to bring up the screen, or am I jumping the gun? Or okay. All right, so yeah, so we've paired 2,800 apprentices. We give the Code of Excellence, which is the IBEW's, how we're, why people pay us the money that they do. And it's our commitment to the Code of Excellence that separates us from our non-union counterparts. So we've given that class to over 5,000 people. There's been 30 other IBEW local unions who have formed mentor programs in their IBEW. Based on our model, and we have a committee of about 23 people committed to making this program happen. So we have at any given time 1,000 apprentices and probably about 900 mentors. So it is a big program to manage. All right, I'll take the next slide. So what is mentoring? Mentoring's been around forever. This is my first, I call her my firstborn apprentice. She was the first apprentice that I had as a mentor. But basically, it's a professional relationship that's devoted to a person's career. It's a relationship between a seasoned member. A mentor is like either a younger person or less experienced. Like nowadays, where people change careers, like I came in a little later, so I might be older than my mentor. So it's not necessarily someone who's younger. It's just someone with more experience. So there's types of mentoring. Next slide. So there's formal and informal. So Local 3 has a formal mentor program, right? When the apprentices come in, they're told that they have no choice, right? They get a mentor, whether they like it or not. And if they don't want one, then they can write the business manager of Local 3 a letter that states that they don't need a mentor, that they know more than the business manager of Local 3. So in 10 years, nobody has written that note. And the good thing about that is that it's a program that's sold from the top down, right? And so it's important to the it's important to the local union. It's important, our business manager feels that every apprentice that comes in has every opportunity for success, right? It used to be father-son for all these years. And now, we're more diversified. We don't necessarily have father-son. And now we have mother-daughter, right? So, it's evolving. So the business manager saw this need of somebody to give them the opportunity, right? So we have a formal one, and then there's informal, right? It's non-intentional, it's unstructured, most likely not goal-oriented, right? So every year, every new year, I sit with all my apprentices. I give them a call, or in COVID, you have to call them or FaceTime them or whatever. But usually, like, we'll meet up and I'll say, like, all right, what's your goals for this year? Where do you see yourself going this year? In the first year, it's like, oh my God, I just want to get through class, right? I just want to get through the job. And then as they, they grow, they want to do more. So yeah, so informal could be like a club meeting. Like we have 32 clubs in Local 3. We have the women's club, the motorcycle club, the Hispanic club, the Latimer club. Anyway, there's no reason why you can't be involved in Local 3. Sometimes I think it's too much. right? There's too many things to do. It could be overwhelming. Next slide. So I can't really see everybody's hands, but I'm sure that no matter where you come from, you know, you work with that guy or that gal, you know, negative guy, I call him, right? You come into work and you're ready to start this career and you're all psyched and you're like, I'm 100% in. And then you're working with the guy who's like, yo, you should have stayed in school. What are you doing here? This industry's going downhill. This sucks. That guy sucks. This sucks. Blah, 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 right? And he's usually the loudest one in the shanty, right? So, you know, for me, I wanted to be around people who were going to be happy about what they were. I was passionate from day one. I came in, I was wanting to hit the ground running, right? So I wanted other people. So what the mentoring program does is it gives you satisfaction, right? I just mentioned that like Local 3 is so big. We have 30,000 members, 10,000 people, and it could be super overwhelming, right? And I'm a country kid and I never even took the subway before I came to Local 3. So now I had to like learn a new job, learn the New York subway system, learn how to work with men, learn a new job. So it was a lot, but you know, how was I going to get the most bang for my buck without like saying, I can't do this, right? Because sometimes, especially like when we come in, it's like too much, right? One guy could give us a bad day and we're like, I'm tapping out, I quit, right? So the mentor program increases job satisfaction and commitment. Better communication in the industry, right? So my mentees know that if they have a question, they're going to come to me and not that guy in the shanty who's complaining about everything and hasn't gone to a union meeting in 20 years, but knows everything about everything, right? So it increases communication, right? And then information and skills can be passed on to the next generation. So here's one of the things that I see a lot that helps women with the mentor program. So when I came in 22 years ago, it was really hard to get the guys to give me the opportunity to learn, right? To give me their pliers, right? And so I would go to the Amber Light meeting, which is our women's club, and I would say to the other sisters, like, God, you know, like all I'm doing is cleaning the shanty. I'm, you know, sweeping up the closets. You know, I'm going for coffee. Like I was doing all these gender conforming activities, let's just say. And, you know, while it's my job to do those things as an apprentice, I would be like third year and there'd be a first year, you know, guy pulling wire, right? So, you know, I would have to get advice of like, how am I as a woman going to learn my trade without screaming and, you know, getting everybody's knickers in a twist. So, you know, they taught me things like, you know what, every man has an ego, right? And when you see something that you want to learn, you go up to that guy and you say, wow, you did a really great job. How did you do that? And so like I was able to take their, you know, their suggestions and, you know, use them at work. And I saw that it worked, right? So then when I wanted to learn how to read blueprints, I would go, hey, you know, how did you get that measurement? And you would take me over to the blueprints, right? So it was those suggestions that helped me increase my skills, right? But sometimes like on a job, if you say to a guy, like, you know, I feel like I'm not learning, they'll just dismiss it and say, you're supposed to go for coffee. You're supposed to clean the shanty, right? Some of them just don't get it and some of them do, you know. Increases socialization in the workplace, reduces turnover rate. So this is like really important because I talk about this is like, so we want to talk about like retention with women in the industry, right? And I can tell you that it was the millennial celebration and I came back for coffee and I was 10 minutes late and the foreman, like in an Alamac of like 20 people just started screaming at me. You come back for coffee on time. And I think if I had 3 months in the business, that was a lot. But I was older, I was 33. And here's this, you know, guy yelling, I mean, screaming at me, cursing at me. And I'm like, So anyway, I let it ride, and then he sees me in the afternoon, and again, he starts yelling at me. So we take the elevator ride down, and the guy on the Alamac, he stops the Alamac right in the middle of the floors. And he said, I can so see in your face that you're about to walk off this job. And I looked at him and I started listening, because you know what? I had $300 for dinner money in my pocket. And that's exactly what I thought. That'll cover my tools. They can keep my tools. I don't need this crap. I'm 33 years old. I don't need to be spoken to like disrespectful, like a child. And, you know, he stopped the elevator and he said, listen, don't give that guy the power to walk off the job. He goes, I see you come in every day. You have a great attitude. Don't let that guy steal your career. And he goes, you take as long as you need. And I always remember, you know, this is 22 years later, and I could still see his face and his cigar, right? Danny. And if I ever ran into him today, I would have to thank him, because that was the day I was really going to walk off the job. And there's been days since that, like, I've gone to the bathroom, especially through the apprenticeship where it's hard, you know, where I walked into the bathroom and I just had to like cry, right? Because there's no crying in construction. So you have to go to the ladies' room. So, you know, it helps, retention, and it helps with the turnover rate. And it aids in bridging the generation gaps, right? So we have some seasoned guys who, you know, they say I'll mentor, and then, you know, they get a kid who's, all right, I'm not, you know, calling you every day. And the guy's like, well, I ain't texting you every day. And how do we come to common ground, you know? And I always believe that bridging the generations always starts with a conversation. So I said, why don't you guys meet up for pizza, and why don't you share about how it was like growing up, you know, so they learn where each other's coming from. So the next slide. So how do you get this started? So for me, I had this idea. I didn't want to be the only one. I didn't want to be around negative guy. I thought that there was a lot of other people who can give, you know, the new apprentices good ideas. So I wrote a proposal to the business manager. I was also going to school for my master's degree, and I was reading about organizing the organized, and somebody had mentioned mentor program, and I started talking about it to my friends. And anyway, so then the business manager loved it, and we've been doing it. But if you want to get started, first thing is you have to sell it, you know, to the top, but you have to sell it to the people at the bottom first, because if you can't sell it to the people at the bottom, you're never going to sell it to the business manager or those people making decisions. You got to identify a person who will guide the program, like somebody like me who doesn't mind getting up at 4:30 on a Sunday morning to do this work. Provide training, right? We have a code of excellence. You know, and questions. You have mentors. You know, you have to have the right mentors, right? You don't want negative guys signing up for, you know, to be a mentor. If he signs up, then you leave him on the list for a while. That's what we do. But we really, those guys usually don't sign up because they don't want to help. They just want to talk about the problems. Framework, you know, it depends on how your local or how your business is set up. You know, we do ours based on growing pains. You know, we have a big program, like I said. So, you know, how do you pair them up? We do it 100 at a time. We bring them down to the hall, and then we have goals, right? Everybody has a specific goal, and that is, you know, the first goal of the mentoring program is to make sure that we turn out you know, the most skilled electricians, right? And then we turn out good trade unionists. And then the mentor acts as an advocate for the apprentice, right? So like in my case, they would tell me, you know, how can I go and get the pliers out of the hands? How could I better learn my trade? So wrapping up, you know, I always tell everybody that, you know, anybody can come into the industry and leave a career behind, right? Many people do it. Thousands of people do it. Millions of people do it. But not everybody, when they leave their career, leave a legacy behind. And I think for a lot of women, you we're committed to like leaving our legacies behind, and mentoring allows you to do that. And this is something I'm, so passionate about. I don't know if you can feel my passion through the screen, but it's something that I love to do, and I just love seeing the results that come out of it. And so yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to the next person. I hope I didn't take up too much time.
So my name is Christina. I'm the executive director of West Virginia Women Work. And like Erin, I'm a country girl. Unlike Erin, I'm still out here in the cut. West Virginia is very, very rural. And so I'm going to do the opposite of what Erin talked about and talk more about kind of some informal efforts, some steps you can take if you're kind of on your own, or if you don't have large numbers to work with. Here in West Virginia, at West Virginia Women Work, the nonprofit that I run, we specialize in pre-apprenticeship training programs for women. So we run programs in construction and advanced manufacturing. But because our state doesn't really have a really concentrated population anywhere, we have to do this at multiple locations around the state. So we run 4 satellite training centers, and we also have a headquarter office. Now, what we do not have is a really formalized mentorship program. We've really had to use kind of some workarounds to figure out how to get the most participation from around the state and from many different trades, both union workers and non-union workers. So how can we be an ally to these women that are sometimes the only woman in their local or their company? And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So this is really information for maybe your local is smaller. Maybe you're the only woman in that local or in your apprenticeship program or in the company that you work for or on the job site that you're on, just kind of out there on your own, maybe feeling a little bit isolated. And this is also great information for allies. So if you work for a nonprofit or you're part of an advocacy group, this is the kind of theme we're going for here. So the first thing that I hear a lot when I go around. I do go around the country doing workshops for apprenticeship programs, and I talk a lot about mentorship. And something that comes up sometimes, a lot of times actually, when I speak is some of the leadership from the programs will say, well, why is it that, we're advocating for groups like this and we're trying to put the work into a women's group, but no one volunteers and no one's demanding for this? Or what if the guys say that this isn't fair? Why do the women get their own group? So I wanted to kind of start on that. There are a lot of reasons why, women are not necessarily, we want to go back one more. There we go. Keep in mind that women have a lot on their plate. Outside of the job, they have a lot of responsibilities that can make participating in something outside of work hours pretty difficult. But there's also, the idea of, you're already kind of the odd man out or the odd woman out, so to speak. And so some women are reluctant to do anything that is going to, draw attention to the fact that she's the only woman there. So especially if you're working with only having a few women in your local, sure, they might not be, chomping at the bit to start something new, to point themselves out further. So this is where I often say it's great to try to start like a multi-trade committee or group or something informal, and kind of reach out to as many women as you can, including women that might just be interested, and use the women that are there kind of more as the mentor or as a role model, and that can be very appealing as well. And then, if there is that attitude that it seems unfair, keeping in mind that mentorship is about camaraderie and providing support. And so it's easy to have camaraderie when you're one of 100 of your gender on a job site. So that's not really in the kind of mentorship that I'll be talking about. Not really going to be necessary when there's a lot of people like you on the job. And quite frankly, if that's something that's being voiced, that's something to pay attention to, because that's not really the kind of work environment that we want to promote, letting those ideas fly around without being met. So in general, the numbers themselves are what demonstrate the need for some kind of mentorship, whether it can grow to the point of a very formalized program like Erin is so fortunate to be involved in, or if it's just something more grassroots, something informal that you can build up over time, you can demonstrate the successes and hopefully grow it into something more formalized. But unless you have, equal numbers, gender on the job site, that in itself is proof that you need to have some kind of mentorship program because it is a proven method for increasing both recruitment and retention. Next slide, please. Now, the kind of group that I'm going to be talking about is really around combating isolation, offering advice to one another, offering support around issues that can be specific to women in non-traditional occupations, the jobs where there are fewer women than other genders. There are other types of mentorship programs, and I've been involved in creating several. But I'm not talking about a mentorship that focuses on skill development or passing on skills in a very structured way, because we know studies have shown us that women don't often leave the trades because they're not picking up the skills. They're leaving for other reasons around like the social setting of the trades, the workplace environment. So that's really the kind of program that I'm talking about in setting something like this up. Okay, so informal is okay. It's okay to not have, all of your sign up forms ready and the specific number of hours that everybody's gonna have to attend this and that. It's okay to just kind of start small, get a group together, and start going forward that way. What I've seen with a lot of the advocacy groups that I work with or other nonprofits is they really come at it with kind of a business mindset. So that's things like hosting your gathering around a conference table or even calling it a meeting. When you're really trying to get something off the ground, we want to just kind of ditch all of that and think more like a tradeswoman. Tradeswomen cannot meet during business hours. They don't want to walk into your pristine office with mud on their boots. It's not a comfortable environment for them. So really think more like a tradeswoman and get rid of the like uber professional type gathering. Picking out your place. Again, this doesn't have to be super formal. There doesn't have to be a PowerPoint or anything. Pick a really low key, when we're out of when we're out of isolation here ourselves, pick a really low key local spot. Maybe there's a great restaurant with a great craft beer selection and you can get off in like a little room of that establishment. We've thrown bonfires in West Virginia, and those are always really popular gatherings. Those are the ones that last the longest. Nobody wants to go home. One time we even rented a VIP tent at this big, huge local haunted house, and they came and picked us up on a wagon and we went on the haunted house tour. So it doesn't have to be, set up in a very businessy way. You just kind of pick a cool spot that people are going to want to come to. Or if right now you're trying to do things virtually, it's just, I think about putting in the thought to not make it a classroom type lecture. So what are we going to do during this event to get people to participate? Mainly to swap information, to tell their stories, to tell their problems, get advice, and get their contact information out there, get their social media platforms out there so that we can start linking people up. Because again, it's about just breaking down that isolation initially, giving people someone to call. Like Erin said, she had that day. If that journeyman wouldn't have caught her on her way out, who's that person going to be when Erin got off that elevator? If that guy hadn't been there, who's she going to call? Can she send somebody a message on Facebook? Can she send out a tweet to somebody? Just making the linkages between people, even if they're not of the same trade, just talking to someone and saying, you're not going to believe the crap that just happened to me. And connecting. Making it really interesting. I think, and I'm going to steal this from Lark, I think it was Lark that told me when she was working out of New York that there was a guest speaker that came into one of their groups and talked about pelvic floor health. So it doesn't have to entirely be about the trades and the tools all the time. You can bring in speakers, bring in information that is relevant to all of the women, and especially, could help keep them safe on a job site. We're doing things like tool swaps. You buy a specific tool for a specific job, you haven't used it in a couple years, bring it in and let the women swap tools or swap work clothes. Maybe they shrunk out of some of their clothes or grew out of some of their clothes. So we do a lot of swaps on like safety gear and stuff like that, if it's still in good order. And then you always hear things like provide food, I always say to, sorry, I set a timer for myself. I always say to provide beer. And I know that some of our women are in recovery or they don't drink. And I'm not talking about a free for all, we're doing shots down the line, just something to, again, make it feel more casual, make people feel like they want to come. When you're recruiting, I think everybody automatically flocks to Facebook. You want to start up Facebook groups, and we do that too. But I would suggest paid ads, and it's very, very inexpensive to run ads on social media. But keep in mind, what age groups are on which social media platforms. So Facebook is a little bit older. They're more, my age and older, 30s. And so Instagram, I don't run into a lot of groups that are big on Instagram, but Instagram has a huge tradeswomen network. So Instagram, if you're shooting for like 20s, early 30s, and then everybody's on YouTube, but very few of us use it for things like recruiting and spreading the word. So really just kind of being mindful of the way that you're using social media, because we don't want to keep excluding the younger tradeswomen because they're not always on Facebook anymore. Imagery, using pictures of women, being very intentional about your wording, like maybe getting rid of the meeting, just anything to really make people feel welcome and entice them to come and participate. Next slide, please. And then lastly, these are just kind of some tips, what I've seen work and what I talk to my staff a lot about here when we're trying to get these events together. It is really important that someone's in charge. And oftentimes, especially when you're first getting started, especially if you have a lot of women in apprenticeship and they're not to the journeyman level yet, you may not have a tradeswoman that is able to take charge. She's not able to schedule the meeting. She's not able to make sure the refreshments are there. So we do need a facilitator. Somebody has to be in charge of facilitation, but that person doesn't have to control every aspect, especially if you're an advocate or an ally. You want to create this framework for the women to connect, but you really don't want to run things. If what they need is time to socialize and just talk quietly amongst themselves, then let that happen. If they're saying that they would like speakers, then help that to happen. And you're really just there to support that group until they can really get their legs under themselves and it can grow into something more formal. You want to make sure, especially if you're not a tradeswoman yourself, that you're considering tradeswomen's work hours and childcare pickup time. So they might all get off work at a certain time in early afternoon or so, but then they have to run multiple places to pick up kids. And if you want them to be able to come straight there, provide childcare. Make sure, maybe the women that have kids are willing to swap every meeting, just kind of keeping an eye on the kids, or just put some activities for children in kind of one area of the meeting. Be really intentional about being casual. So again, if you're an ally or somebody from a business or from management and you wear a suit to work, change out of it before the meeting. Make sure you're the person going around making introductions. You don't want all these tradeswomen from different unions or different companies, different trades, kind of standing in the corner. Go around and say the things that they have in common, and hook people up, take people by the arm and say, oh, I want you to meet my friend over here. So really be the hostess and get the women talking. That's really like the main goal, is to get the women talking. And then don't plan the entire gathering time with activities and speakers. It's really important that people have social time to get to know each other and get advice from one another, exchange information. And then it is always fun to have activities. Maybe you can do a game or, have s'mores at the bonfire. But the activities don't have to be so consuming that people don't get a chance to talk. Okay, sorry, I tried to rush through that. But if anybody has any questions, I'm down for that too. All done.
Thank you, Christina. You know what I really liked about your program was that you were willing to go outside of a specific craft. When I hear mentor mentee, I always think of they have to be in the same craft. But I like the idea of mentoring as a support system versus craft.
Thank
And
you. Yeah, we
I
have to do
really,
that here because we will only have like 1 or 2 women per craft sometimes. But you know what? They experience all the same crap on the job site, so they can really help each other in that way.
that's awesome. And
Thank you.
Erin, I really am amazed at 900 900 mentors and 1,000 mentees. How in my job, we have problems getting, and this could be for either of you, maintaining our mentors usually get burnt out after a while, and keeping 900 has to be, how are you doing that? How do you keep them engaged to continue to mentor?
So sometimes you think like the best people to be mentors are the ones who are really busy, and they're not, right?
Okay.
And because they're too busy. And so we don't always necessarily go to the busy people. We go to jobs, if I'm on a job site and I'm running work and I see a guy on the job who's like a good union guy and he's a good guy and he's a positive influence on an apprentice on the job, I'll say to him like, wow, you know what, you would make a really good mentor. Maybe he's not like 1,000% involved in the local, right? Because he's got young kids at home, just like, women got young kids at home. And so, but maybe he has time for that one kid, and he can mentor that kid. So that's one thing, is like, look around you. There's great people around you. And don't be afraid to ask, because sometimes, like, just the other day I was on a job and I said to a guy, I go, you'd make a good mentor. And he goes, really? And I go, yeah. I go, you're great with the apprentices. And you do skilled work, and that's what we need. And he goes, yeah, but I'm not that active. And I go, listen, you know what? You go to your union meetings here and there, like who goes to every union meeting? We need good guys to mentor these apprentices. We don't need negative guys. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is like, how do you sell it? Right? Like, I mean, if you have somebody go up like, Lark, I know like you're really busy and we're starting this like mentoring program. Can you like help out? Versus me saying, hey, Lark, I saw you the other day working with Sarah, and wow, you guys seem to hit it off. Did you hear about the local 3 mentoring program? Yeah, I did, but you know what? I don't want to really get involved. I have enough stuff going on. Oh, all right. So you can't do an hour a week? What do you mean an hour a week? Yeah, just touch base. Keep an eye on her. Do for that sister what was done for you. Be that sister who reaches back for the next sister. And so it's like really how you sell it. Again, just because a guy's active, and some people do things because of like what they're going to get out of it, right? And the true altruistic people that you're looking for are right in front of you. You just have to find them.
Thank you very much. Lark, do we have any other questions from the
Yes.
audience?
Yes.
Awesome.
So first of all, you all did an amazing job. Thank you, Erin. Thank you so much, Christina. And thank you, Gwen, for just setting the foundation for this conversation. This was, I would say, for both of you, how do you train your mentors? Can you speak specifically to just like, what is that process? I know you have the code of excellence, Erin, but can you just speak more to just overall training? That's a question we've gotten at least twice now.
Yeah, so before they sign up, we say, we ask the mentor, are you willing to follow this apprentice for 5 years? Are you a member in good standing? Do you plan on getting active, with this person? Will you be an advocate for this person? And so they have to like kind of like really have an idea of what's expected for them, right? We don't tell them the night that they show up, right? I want the commitment of what you have to do before you get there, right? This is what's important to us. If this is important to you, come on down. We got a kid for you. And then we bring them together. Although COVID, we've had to do Zoom, but we bring them all to the hall. We'll do like 150 at a time. We get them there at like 4 o'clock. And then, we started at 5, so they have like an hour to kind of like meet and greet and, shake hands and stuff. And then we go through the code of excellence, what's expected of the mentor and what's expected of the apprentice, right? Sometimes people don't call back, well, you know what? You're expected to call back. So.
And then of course I'm going to be, I'm going to be a lot less formal than Erin. I'm old country bumpkin out here. We're so small. I'm working with 20 to 30 mentors at any time, and I know them all. So I actually just call them up individually and I say, hey, I have this pre-apprentice here and this is what she's interested in, or she's applied to your local's apprenticeship program. I talked to her a little bit about the pre-apprentice and what my goals are for that person. And so I've essentially like handpicked these mentors because I know them. I know I've worked with them for many years throughout their own apprenticeship. Some of them are still apprentices, some are early journeymen, some have been a journeyman for 10 years. So I don't require any kind of level of experience. It's just that I know them, and either there's something about their situation that I can see relates to the person, or they're in the same trade, or they've just been really active with our pre-apprenticeship. One of the best ways that I recruit mentors is these are the women that are volunteering to come back as guest speakers and stay involved with the pre-apprenticeship even after they're gone. So they've already demonstrated some of that, reaching back that Erin's talking about. They're wanting to help the women that are in the position they were in a year ago or 5 years ago. So they're coming back to help. And so that's always a good sign that they would be a good mentor. And I do want to say too, that I don't only pick people that I pick enthusiastic people that are serious about their trade. But I don't pick people that have had an easy run of it, because I don't know that any woman has had an easy run of it start to finish, but maybe they've been through something really difficult and come out the other end. And so I also pick people that can be realistic and give advice. And it's not always, sunny side up, but so they don't have to be like a cheerleader all the time either, but just people that have been through it.
That's a really great point, Christina. We oftentimes don't think about that. And so, Erin, you have another question about the Amber Lights.
So I told you we have 32 clubs. We never have a shortage of getting involved in Local 3. And the Amber Light is our women's club. And I also, out of the international office, I'm the 3rd district representative for our International Women's Committee. But that's like a club of women, right? And they get together once a month on the same day, same time. So if you have a baby and you come back 10 years later, you know that on the 3rd Thursday at the hall is the Amber Light meeting. And we get a lot of our mentors there, right? Because those are the involved sisters. But we also have sisters who, one day I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be called "You Will Never Be One of the Guys," right? We have like women who just like come into the trades and they think like, I'm going to be one of the guys and I don't need any help from the sisters, and until they need help from the sisters, right? So yeah, I mean, we have a club. So if women, want to help other women, and then, we don't necessarily too, if like you're not involved in the Amber Light, no sister will ever turn her back on you, right? So if you never got involved and you needed help, or, they were looking for 4 people, we would recommend, Christina said, you know what, Amber Light's not for me. And, we try to debunk, like the guys will tell the women on the job, listen, I wouldn't go to Amber Light. They're a bunch of lesbians who talk about birth control. So I'll say to the apprentice, I'll go, can you say that again slow? oh yeah, like you guys are all a bunch of lesbians who talk about birth control. And I go, now, like, how would that make sense? Like, I never knew a lesbian who needed birth control,
Well,
you know?
you talk about birth control by, trying to make everybody a lesbian.
Yeah. So I said, so I try to demyth the myths, and just kind of have fun with it and just say, like, I just tell them, like, listen, I'm never going to let a man or somebody else tell me what I should and shouldn't do based on information that they've never been privy to. And sometimes, you just have to talk to the sisters. I go on jobs and the sisters will walk past each other. I won't have that. I stop them. Hello, I'm Erin, shake my hand. We don't have to be best friends, but we're on the same team.
Thank you so much, Erin. And Janelle said, I'm dead from laughing, and I am too. So thank you for that. So Maria or Cassandra, do we have any other questions from the audience? We have Instagram has a huge tradeswoman following. I agree. Approach is everything. Harkening back to Erin's point about, how you are speaking about what it means to be a mentor to a prospective mentor. Okay. All right. So from the audience, we don't have any other questions. Erin and Christina, do you all have any final words of advice for our industry stakeholders on how to develop these programs, or tradeswomen specifically who are trying to build support for these programs within their locals?
I mean, I guess I'll say from my own personal experience that it can be really difficult to get started and just not to give up. Sometimes there's this thing that you're really passionate about, or you can see the help that it can do for people, and to just keep going. And, if you're regular with things, and like Erin said, they know if they come back, it's the third Tuesday, just be consistent and they will come. Just keep going, because it's a really, really important cause. And you might have a night where just nobody shows up, but do it again. Just keep doing it, because this is, I feel like, one of the biggest impacts to retention. It's one of the most important types of work you can do as an ally and as a tradeswoman. So just, stick with it.
Erin, what about you? Any final words of advice?
Yeah, so I think that one is, if you want to start it, you got to be willing to follow through with it, right? Because consistency. But also too is, I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, people have been mentoring people since, BC, and and they'll be mentoring people after. And we've been doing it for 10 years. Just look online. Burgard Marx has a great manual about mentoring. If you see something online, like, people from all over the country email me about starting mentoring program. People who mentor are passionate about it and want to share. So just get their information. And Lark, I want to thank you. I had knee replacement 2 weeks ago, and I felt like crap for the last 2 weeks. And today I felt really good, because you know what? I got, like, my passion injected in me, and I haven't felt my knee in about 50 minutes. And that felt really good. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Christina. My kid went to West Virginia. And so I've been there. And I just love mentoring. I just really do.
We're so grateful to have thank both of you. So thank you for just pushing it through, Erin, and providing your expertise. We all appreciate it. And thank you, Christina. You all have been so insightful, so honest about what it takes for these programs to work. So we appreciate that, all of your perspective.